Hey, welcome to the World Refugee Day discussion.
Thank you, and thank you so much for having us.
And today's theme is every action counts. What does that mean?
I think it really means that everything we do, or it's a collective issue, really. I was just reflecting on the situation of displacement in Nigeria. And I remember from the very beginning when we first had in Nigeria, I'll break it down for us, when we first had displacement in Nigeria, we as an organization would go and talk to people, whether it's government people, Nigerians, ordinary Nigerians, especially those of us who were in the middle belt or in the south, or not the middle belt so much, but in the south. And we would say, oh, there are displaced people in Nigeria. Impossible. We're not Afghanistan. We're not. So we lived in denial for a long time. And what started to happen was that displacement started to spread from the north. Even before the northeast had issues, the middle belt had been facing displacement issues for a long time, extremely underreported. There were issues around, uh, the plateau, for example, Benue, and the same thing, terrorist headsmen attacks, and then also intercommunal conflict. So we didn't realize at that time, we didn't take the radical steps we needed to take to deal with this issue, and now it has spread. Officially, Nigeria says they have 2.58 million displaced people, but really we believe that that figure is probably closer to 4 million.
Okay.
And again, every action counts. We're not taking those figures. The government is not doing what it needs to do, and we're not dealing with this thing, approaching it radically. And so when you don't, these things snowball, because more people get displaced, they move around. I think 10 years ago, if you look at for a place like Lagos, we didn't have the dynamics we have now, where we have so many people living in slums, in settlements, who are displaced, who have fled to Lagos from everywhere. And again, the actions that we as a people need to take. First, there's the action of the government, who have not taken this on and said, let's find out what's really happening in this space. They've left it to international bodies like IDMC, and then a very under-resourced body called the Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons to do this work. And, as far as we can see, we're not seeing so much traction from that perspective. So that's one act, that's the action. Then for we as individuals, my rallying cry for World Refugee Days, we need to take collective action. Everybody. We need to see IDPs as part of us. That's what one of my colleagues said, Eunice, our program officer. She said, if we don't see the IDPs as part of us and as one of us, we will continue to think they are the other, and we will continue to just pretend this problem does not exist. What Nigerians do not realize is that these bubbles of insecurity are spreading, and every single one of us is in danger of becoming displaced. And if you think about being displaced, imagine if a flood, apart from the conflicts that cause displacement, other things cause displacement, natural disasters, floods. A few days ago, just 2 days ago, we had flash floods in Lagos. Now, there are people who are displaced in places like Egbe and other places. We hope to do some studies there and do some outreach. But there were people who were displaced all over the place. It can happen to anybody. So if we don't take collective action and we don't, do that immediately, we will, all of us are in danger of becoming displaced one day. If we don't put in place structures to deal with that, we'll have a major issue on our hands.
So the UN projects that every minute 20 people are displaced somewhere in the world, either as a result of war, persecution, or terror. So when you look at that number, every minute, 20 people are displaced. How can we situate that with Nigeria? Do we have such a deluge of displacement in Nigeria that qualifies for this kind of figure?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you see the figure. One thing, and this year's commemoration and is really designed to bring about, of course, World Refugee Day is about raising awareness about the situation of displaced people. Now, displaced people, there are two types. We have refugees, and then we have internally displaced persons. Refugees are people who have crossed a border, right? So people who have run for us, now an example like from Borno to Niger, or Borno into parts of Cameroon, or even the ones we have in Benue who have fled from Cameroon to parts of Benue. They're actually in my village or in my local government in Benue, where I'm from. So you have those refugee situations, and then you have internally displaced, those who flee from Borno down to Jos or down to Abuja or down to Lagos. And then even within Lagos, those who are displaced by floods. Another thing that displaces people is government actions. So when government goes to demolish settlements, for example, maybe for whatever purposes, people do get displaced from that. So we've had Takwabe in the last few years. We've also had Otodobame. So we have that. Now, the thing is, we're not keeping track. In a place like Lagos, for example, there are very few studies being done. But overall in the world, the internal displacement monitoring center actually estimates, and I think the UNHCR also has had this study, they estimate that 79.5 million people are displaced all over the world. That's possible displacement. Over half of them are internally displaced persons. So we're talking almost 40 million people, or maybe even more. But the world, all we think about and we tend to hear is refugees. Even in Nigeria, UNHCR has tended to focus very much on refugees, and I'm glad more attention is being called to internal displacement. And I would call, and our call is, let's not just focus on the Northeast. We say we have 2.58 million IDPs. A lot of those figures are focused on the Northeast. Now we have issues in the Northwest. We've had issues for a long time in the Middle Belt. We have issues in the South, in the South, in the Southeast, in the South, in the Southwest. So we need many more resources put into that. So I think the number, for Nigeria, to me, I think that figure, when they say one person is displaced every 20 minutes, and we actually need to begin to do our own studies and look at how serious it is. I think we probably will, I'm not sure it's about one every 20 minutes, but I think we'll be shocked to find the regularity and the frequency.
20 every minute. 20 people every minute.
Sorry, 20 people every minute. That's scary.
We are looking at every action counts. I'm looking at the 1951 Convention on Refugees, and there are a number of rights which the refugee or internally displaced person has, which would define the kind of actions that everybody needs to take so that the refugee or the internally displaced person is better, their well-being is improved. Some of these rights, I think I can just run down them. The right not to be expelled, except under certain strictly defined conditions. I don't know what that means, but we'll define that later. The right not to be punished for illegal entry into the territory of a contracting state. The right to work, the right to housing, the right to education, the right to public relief and assistance, the right to freedom of religion, the right to access the courts, and the right to freedom of movement within the territory, and the right to be issued identity and travel documents. Now, speak to these rights. How can, I know that, yes, there have been a lot of actions that even Sesor has taken as an organization. How do we make sure that everybody is involved in making sure that these refugees accept?
So there are a number of instruments Nigeria has that are actually in existence to protect the rights of displaced persons, especially internally displaced persons. For Nigeria or for Africa, we have the African Union document, which are instruments called the Kampala Convention. Nigeria has ratified that convention now, and it started work towards implementing those provisions through a national IDP policy, which was drafted and was being put in place about 8 years ago. Unfortunately, we really are not sure where that is. We think it has kind of stayed on the table. We haven't really seen radical actions in that direction, in moving things in that direction. And of course, all these rights you've mentioned are in that document. And the Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons is, I believe, supposedly the agency responsible for putting this in place. But we're not quite sure how that has played out. We've seen a number of actors on the board. We've seen the National Emergency Management Agency. We're not quite sure where the NCF, the commission comes in. They have a long acronym. I think it's NCFRMI. Sometimes we joke internally that even the internally displaced person, seems to have been added on at the end as an afterthought.
Yeah.
And in many ways, sadly, that seems to be the approach. It's like, oh yeah, we have IDPs. Oh yeah, we have to do something. And that do something tends to be people just showing up with relief materials, taking pictures, they photo up, and they go home or they go away. And it's sad that, it's amazing that in our country, this right to IDPs having an identity, we don't even have the right figure. We don't know the number. We don't have a proper, there's some who are identified in the camps, but that's about it. Those who are in host communities, those who are in settlement, those who have lost everything are not necessarily accounted for. But it's ironic that when it's time for elections, our government can find it in their hearts and organize them in the camps and get them to vote. So obviously the motivations are also an issue. Having said that, I think one of the biggest issues, the right to safety as well, because we've had situations where several camps, remember a few years ago, there was a camp that was actually accidentally bombed.
Yes.
Till today, we've not heard about any disciplinary actions taken on the I think it was either the Nigerian office of Air Force or military that bombed that camp. Instead, when these things are brought to the fore, the Nigerian government goes around saying the bodies that bring them to the fore, whether it's an amnesty or an NGO, anti-Nigerian element, And some Nigerians who do not quite understand these things support them. They don't understand that tomorrow it can be viewed as a display. And then you will be in that camp, and God help you if somebody does not mistakenly come and bomb it. Of course, we also have issues of terrorists also going into some of those camps and detonating bombs. So there are those as well. Speaking more to the work that we're doing, there's the issues around, so first, safety. So now safety in the camps, in the settlements, and then a lot of times, because their homes have not been resecured, they cannot go back. We have a huge issue, for example, in Egbe and here in Lagos, where we have a lot of people we work with, they're not interested in living in settlements or IDP camps. They want to go home. They want to go back to their farming. They want to go back to their peaceful existence, but those places are not secure. And no matter, it's not a PR exercise for our security agents. Oh, we killed 20,000 or whoever, we killed 500 or 200 or 40 bandits or terrorists or whatever. The issue is, are we securing these places, and how are we making sure that our people can go back home and be safe? We had a situation where one of the displaced men we worked with, relying on these reports from our agencies that though they had secured her hometown, went back home. And she was lucky in Borno. She was very lucky. She said the minute she got home, they didn't sleep in that village for one night. They would come in the day, farm, around 4 or 5 p.m., they will run back into the bush to go and sleep there because these terrorists were still coming to attack the villages. So these are some of the things. Same thing in Benue. Look at then that Nigeria has the largest number of people living in poverty in the world. These things are all related. So it's very, very important that we're able to see the interconnectedness of these things. Again, that's why every action counts. see how these things are connected and
Yes.
really take those actions. So the right to livelihood, of course, we try to provide microfunds, micro grants for our women, for the women we work with, do business. But we need a lot more. You know, sometimes you're tempted to think, oh, what you're doing is a drop in the ocean, giving these overwhelming figures. But for every woman that gets that support, it means the world to her and her children. The right to education of our children. The children are there. Again, I think it's sad in Lagos. You see a lot of them begging on the street, you know, or they're hawking or they're pressed into servitude and service when they should be in school or when they should be better protected. So we really hope that we can take on some of more of these. The last thing I'll say on the refugee or displacement situation, housing is a huge, huge need. The challenge is they need to make a living, they need housing. Housing is a long-term costly, can be rather, a long-term costly investment sometimes. And what we need to figure out is to strike the right balance. So yes, we may be able to get lands maybe out of state, but how do they then make a living? You know, they need to also be near where they can make a living. So really, the truth is, we should actually get together and prepare extremely radical and innovative and well thought out solutions for this. And we hope that as in the next few weeks and months, we will be able to maybe convene people together and take these radical and think through these issues because they are critical. Indeed, every action counts, and we must move. But the more we do, we're just going to have more displaced people. The insecurity will persist because more displaced people means more poverty, more traumatized people. And when people, some of them get frustrated, they will join criminal gangs, they turn to crime or terror. And you and I will be the next set of displaced people. It's a clear and present danger, hasn't gone away, it's increasing, and we cannot afford to speak about it.
Thank you. So let's take it home. Sesor, incidentally, is marking its 10th year as a foundation, and this coincides with the World Refugee Day. So let's see what difference this 10th year would be for Sesor. Would you like to enlighten us?
Yeah, so well, right now we're making our plans. The interesting thing is we actually have 2 10-year anniversaries. Why we say that is we started our operations in 2010. We did our first outreach in 2010 in Benin, but we formally registered as an incorporated trustee in 2021. So we're actually looking at having a year of activities.
Sorry, let's get those dates right again. Your first action was
our first outreach was in 2010.
2010. Okay.
In Benin.
In Benin.
And as we did the work and we saw the need, we decided to incorporate as a trustee as an NGO in 2011. Sorry, 2011.
Yes.
So our activities, we said 2021, right? Sorry. So 2011. So our activities to just mark the 10 years will stretch from this year into next year. And we're doing that because it's a huge issue. We're all in danger of becoming displaced in one way or the other. And we need to tackle it together and take those actions. So even for World Refugee Day, we have 7 days of activities planned and just different things we're doing to raise awareness on the situation of IDPs and refugees. Some of our IDPs were refugees. So when I fled into Cameroon, we came back to Nigeria. And one of the things the studies are saying is that a lot of refugees who come back because they didn't get the support they needed in the country they fled to and come back and remain displaced. So quite a number of them. In fact, we had a lady whom we miss very much who had fled into, I think it was Niger or Cameroon, and she came back to Lagos as a displaced person because she came looking for her husband here. And unfortunately, she died about 2 years ago, just as a result of the various traumas she had suffered. So these things are real and they affect individuals. IDPs are not just IDPs. We say IDPs in Nigeria, but when we say an IDP, that's a person made in God's image, who's as deserving of a good life as you and I, and whoever else is working with. So we really want to honor the displaced. So over the next 7 days, we want to be calling more attention to their situation. And we're actually going to go into one of the settlements we work in, I think that was yesterday, just to take some clips and interview some of them and just see how they're feeling, what their hopes are for the future. And hopefully we can do something to it. If it's one person's hope we help come true, so do it. But unfortunately, again, the settlement was extremely flooded. Access was even an issue. So we're going to have to try again this week. So again, you know, the trauma and the situation just continue. I want to continue to call attention to that. So we're doing a lot of fundraising activities coming on. We're also looking internally at, you know, just rejigging some of the work we're doing, because we want to now focus more on sustainability of, one, the livelihoods of the people we work more in the house. Housing, we have to crack that nut. Housing fund, because that is what is needed. As long as their housing is not assured, they will continue to be displaced. And then also maybe looking at how we as Nigerians can take collective action and act together to stem this tide of displacement and prevent becoming displaced ourselves. So those are our hopes and the way we want to work this 10th year going forward as well.
All right, so I'd like to say thank you for this short time with us.
Thank
and
you
having
very much for
World
the
Refugee Day. Every action counts.
Indeed, every action counts. Nigerians take action. Thank you.